Ready to dive into something a little spooky?
Always up for a good scare, especially when it involves history.
Well, get this. This time it's Halloween in England.
Ah, Halloween across the pond. Should be interesting.
I found this article and it's packed with history and traditions. Some of it's going to really surprise you, like how we celebrate today.
You think so?
Mhm.
I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
I mean, when you think Halloween, you think like ancient pagan festivals, right?
Yeah, witches, druids, that kind of thing. It's like Halloween 101.
But our article suggests something completely different. Its origins are actually rooted in Christianity.
Really? Christianity. That's
Okay.
a curveball I wasn't expecting.
Right. So the evidence actually points to All Saints' Day,
All Saints' Day. Okay.
a Christian holiday from way back like the 7th or 9th century. Historians haven't totally nailed down the exact date.
So not witches and druids, but saints.
Yeah, it's a twist, isn't it?
It is. It really
But
is.
speaking of things we think we know, pumpkins. Like, who doesn't picture carving pumpkins when they think Halloween?
It's like the ultimate Halloween symbol. Jack-o'-lanterns everywhere.
But it's a fairly recent thing. It hasn't been around forever.
Come on. Really?
Seriously. Originally in England, they carved, get this, turnips or swedes.
Turnips. Can you imagine? Those things are tough.
Right. I can barely carve a pumpkin, let alone a turnip. And you know what else is interesting? Our article mentions this village in Somerset.
Somerset.
Yeah, where the kids, they still carry lanterns, but they're made from mangel-wurzles.
Mangel-wurzles. Okay, those are root vegetables, right?
Exactly, and they call it Punky Night.
Punky Night. Okay, that's adorable.
It's so cool, like how even within one country, you've got all these different traditions.
It shows how Halloween was more local back then,
Yeah,
before it became this huge commercial thing.
totally. And speaking of traditions we take for granted, trick-or-treating.
Okay, so everyone knows trick-or-treating, right?
I'd think so.
Okay.
But are you ready for this? It didn't even exist in England until the 1970s.
No way.
Really? I know. I was shocked too. It was actually imported from North America.
From us. Wow.
Yeah. All thanks to American TV and movies. Like, remember E.T.?
Of course. E.T. Phone Home. Classic.
That movie and others, they played a huge part in bringing trick-or-treating to England.
It's funny how pop culture can totally change traditions.
It really is. Halloween has kind of become this melting pot of customs, transforming over time. But you know what's even more interesting? The whole idea of Halloween being about the supernatural, in England at least, it's more of a modern thing than we realize.
Wait, so you're saying ghosts and goblins and all that, it wasn't always the main focus?
There's almost no written evidence linking Halloween to supernatural beliefs in England before the 19th century.
So all the haunted houses and ghost stories, that's all a more recent addition.
It seems like we've kind of turned Halloween into this blank canvas for our fears, you know?
So it's like our modern anxieties shape how we see and celebrate Halloween.
Exactly. Like, think about all those urban legends, razor blades and apples, all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I remember being terrified of that as a kid.
It totally reflects our deeper fears about safety, hidden dangers, things like that. And let's not forget horror movies. So many of them use October 31st, Halloween night, as their setting.
It's true. It's like the ultimate night for spooky stories. But if the supernatural stuff is relatively new, where did it come from?
That's where things get really interesting. We need to hop over to Ireland.
Ireland. Okay, so we're talking about Samhain, right? I've heard a little about this ancient Celtic festival.
So in, right.
Yeah, that's it. So in. It sounds a bit spooky already.
Well, it marked the end of summer and harvest in Ireland, celebrated on November 1st.
Right around Halloween.
It was considered a liminal time, basically like a threshold between the world of the living and the dead.
Oh, okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
That definitely sets the stage for some supernatural tales.
Definitely. But here's the thing, this idea of Samhain as this huge Celtic festival of the dead, that was mostly popularized in the 19th century by Sir James Frazer,
Fraser, wasn't he an anthropologist?
the one and only. And before him, what we knew about Samhain was like bits and pieces, not the full picture.
So maybe our modern view of Samhain is a bit romanticized, like we filled in the blanks ourselves.
It's a real possibility, but whether or not Samhain was exactly how we picture it, its association with death and spirits definitely played a role in how Halloween evolved in England. It provided that mystical backdrop.
A connection to ancient beliefs, I get it.
Yeah.
It fits perfectly with that emerging narrative of Halloween as a night where the veil between worlds is thin.
Exactly. But enough about the spooky stuff. What about actual traditions?
The stuff people actually did. Okay, I'm curious now.
What did Halloween in England look like before it became this, like, global phenomenon?
All right, lay it on me. What were these English folks up to?
Well, first of all, there was this thing called souling.
Souling. Never heard of it.
So basically, groups of people, a lot of times kids in costumes, would go door to door singing and collecting money and food.
So instead of trick or treat, it was more like song or treat.
Right. It was their way to pray for the souls of the dead.
Interesting. So religion and folk traditions were all mixed up in their Halloween.
And there's more. They also baked special cakes, and they'd leave them in churchyards as offerings to the dead.
Cakes for the dead. Okay, now that's a little creepy.
And bonfires. Lighting bonfires on Halloween was super common, especially in the north of England. Some people even think it might be connected to those Guy Fawkes bonfires.
You know, the ones on November 5th, it's like a fiery thread between different historical events. I like it.
Right. So we've got Christian stuff, folk customs, and you want to hear something really surprising. Halloween in England also had a romantic side.
Romantic, like lovey-dovey romantic.
You bet. This side of Halloween was largely thanks to Robert Burns, the poet. Remember him?
Oh, yeah. Old Lang Syne guy.
That's the one. Anyway, he wrote this poem called Halloween during the Victorian era. It really romanticized the holiday.
Added a little flirtation to the spooky festivities. I'm intrigued. What kind of romantic traditions did they have?
Well, there was this one that's really interesting, hazelnut love divination. They'd toss hazelnuts into a fire, one for themselves and one for their crush.
Oh, I love this.
If the nuts burned gently and then went out, it was a good sign, meant a happy future together.
But what if they didn't?
If they crackled, popped, or exploded, bad omen for the relationship.
It's like a fiery, he loves me not, I love it.
It really captures that spirit of Halloween, exploring the unknown. Not just ghosts and goblins, but like matters of the heart, too.
Halloween, the ultimate night for exploring mysteries. Who knew?
So Halloween was more than just trying to scare each other. It was like this way to play with those big questions about love and fate. They used rituals and, symbols to try and figure out what the future holds.
That's such a great point. It really makes you think. What does all this mean for us today? Like, for people who love Halloween, what can we learn from all these surprising origins and traditions that keep changing?
Right. I feel like we've been celebrating Halloween, I don't know, maybe on autopilot, just doing the commercialized version without really knowing the history behind it all.
Exactly. And when you actually peel back the layers and look at the history, the culture, you get a way deeper appreciation for the holiday. You can see how it evolved and how it still captures our imaginations. It's really cool.
It really makes you wonder about how many other traditions we've oversimplified or misunderstood over time.
And that's what I love about deep dives like this. They make us question what we think we know and go beyond the surface. Find those hidden stories behind everyday things. We expand our knowledge and broaden our perspectives.
So instead of just mindlessly carving pumpkins or going crazy for candy, we should be thinking about the turnips, the soul cakes, the hazelnuts.
Well, it's not about replacing one tradition with another, right? It's more about recognizing all the different traditions that came before, the ones that made Halloween what it is today. Maybe by understanding them better, we can celebrate in ways that feel, more meaningful, more personal.
You know what? I kind of want to start a souling revival. Imagine going door to door and singing for our supper.
I am so in. That would be amazing. And it would be a way to reconnect with that community aspect of Halloween, that focus on remembrance that was so important.
And hey, if we get some delicious homemade soul cakes out of it, I'm not complaining. But beyond the fun, there's a deeper lesson here, don't you think? Halloween, with all its different forms, shows us how fascinated we are by the mysteries of life and death, like the boundaries between what we know and what we don't know, a reminder that we all crave those moments of wonder.
Totally. Those little glimpses into the shadows where anything feels possible.
It's like Halloween gives us permission to embrace all the weirdness, the spooky stuff, the things we can't explain, let go and just be a little primal.
And that's actually really freeing, isn't it? It's like we can face our fears, laugh at the scary stuff, and find joy in the darkness.
This deep dive has been, seriously eye-opening. It's like I got trick-or-treated with knowledge.
I hope you feel like you walked away with a renewed sense of curiosity about, the traditions that shape our lives.
I'm already planning my Halloween costume. I'm thinking souling sinner, basket for soul cakes, songbook full of spooky tunes, the whole 9 yards.
That sounds amazing. Just be careful with those exploding hazelnuts.
Good point. Safety first, especially when it comes to love and all that. But seriously, everyone listening, Dig a little deeper into your own local Halloween traditions. I think you'll be surprised by what you find.
You might uncover some hidden history, a forgotten ritual, even a connection to your own family's past.
And that's what makes this kind of deep dive so rewarding. It's not just about facts, it's about sparking that sense of wonder, encouraging us to explore with open minds and curious hearts.
Because at the end of the day, traditions are so much more than just dates on a calendar or rituals that we do. They're about connecting to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Whether it's our community, our history, even the mysteries of the universe, it's about sharing those stories, creating those memories, passing on a sense of who we are to the next generation.
And in a world that just keeps changing, traditions offer that sense of continuity, a feeling of being grounded. They remind us where we come from and can even help us figure out where we're going.
So while you're carving pumpkins, hanging decorations, and enjoying some treats this Halloween, think about what we talked about today.
Think about those turnips, those soul cakes, the hazelnut divinations.
Consider how all those layers of history and culture made Halloween what it is today.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask questions, to challenge those assumptions. Embrace the unexpected.
Because that's where the real magic of Halloween is.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
It's really amazing when you think about it, how, a simple tradition can hold so much meaning.
Right. And you know what I really appreciate about these deep dives? It's not just about, learning a bunch of facts. It's about making you curious.
Exactly. It's like it encourages us to look at the world with a fresh perspective, and with an open mind.
In traditions, there's so much more than just marking something on a calendar or doing the same thing every year. They connect us to something bigger.
It's about our community, our history, even the mysteries of the universe.
Exactly. It's about those stories that we share, the memories, passing on who we are to the next generation. It's powerful stuff.
And in this crazy world where everything's always changing, traditions give us that sense of, stability. They root us.
Yeah, they remind us of where we came from.
Yeah.
And I think they even help us figure out where we're going.
So this Halloween, while you're, carving your pumpkins, decorating, and enjoying all that candy, think back to what we talked about today.
Remember those turnips, the soul cakes, those hazelnut love divinations.
All those layers of history, all those different cultures that all came together to create Halloween as we know it.
And, the most important thing, don't be afraid to ask questions, to really look at things and say, is this how it really is? And be open to the unexpected.
Because that's where the real magic is, right?
The magic of Halloween. Happy Halloween, everyone.